What reason would someone have to get an abortion? Approximately 3/4 of women receiving abortions cited that having a child would interfere with their education or work, or that they simply couldn't afford to have a baby at that time. If the embryo is a living human, an innocent child, then financial struggles and her busy schedule don't really vindicate killing it. But if it's just part of her body, then who are you to tell her which route to take? Today, we're discussing pro-choice versus pro-life. Now, my biggest problem with how right-wing talk show hosts tend to discuss this topic is that they keep insinuating that life beginning at conception is a religious belief and state things like, "I'm a Christian, so I believe in life at conception." Well, in this episode, I'm leaving the religious motif out of it and going over the irrefutable facts. Let's get into it. What's up, guys? You're tuned in to the Frontal Lobe podcast, your source for discussion and thought-provoking insights into the issues that matter. I'm your host, Mac Finner. Join me as I explore new ways to navigate the challenges of modern life by shifting perspectives for a better tomorrow. And I find myself asking why. Hey guys, I hope you're having an amazing day. I've been feeling the need to speak on abortion, which is an extremely important topic, especially in our society's culture today. My hope is that this episode will reach at least one person who is considering abortion for themselves and offer some guidance, or at least a perspective you may not have heard before. I know that it's one of the most controversial subjects in America, so we will have to use our frontal lobes to reason through this topic together. Be prepared, guys, because I'm not holding anything back today. Of course, there are two main sides to this topic, pro-choice and pro-life. The pro-life stance pretty much speaks for itself. Pro-lifers believe that all human life is valuable and don't want innocent children to be killed before they ever have the chance to experience anything. They believe that the inalienable rights of all living human beings don't disappear with age, location, or viability. A little later in the episode, I'll touch on this viability outside of the womb idea. We shouldn't even have to talk about it since it's such a ludicrous and feeble attempt at vindicating the killing of a baby. Yep, I'm pro-life, ladies and gentlemen. I figured I'd go ahead and let the cat out of the bag before we get too deep here. I imagine that if you are considering abortion, you're also considering the pros and cons along with the dynamics of your specific situation. Although there are many other justifications and an numerous number of circumstances like rape, incest, financial uncertainties, adoption difficulties, quality of life, medical issues, etc., I think the following two justifications are the foundational premises of the pro-choice stance. It seems to me that the rest of the argument would fall apart if these two were disproven. It's her body and it's not alive. Let's look at the first one. My body, my choice. A woman has the right to do whatever she wants with her own body, and I agree with that statement as it stands, in so much as it's a person's right to drink alcohol, but it's not their right to then drive immediately afterwards. It's my body and it's my car. Just like drinking, driving is also my choice to do what I want with my own body. I'm not driving with your body after all. But we don't have the right to put other people's lives in danger. Again, I agree wholeheartedly that a woman should be able to do what she wants with her own body, if it doesn't put anyone else at risk. And if the unborn child in her womb can be proven to just be a part of her body, not having its own body, then why not? It wouldn't be unsimilar to having a gallbladder removed. But if the child is not her, but is a different living individual, then it has the right to life according to the 14th Amendment, and should be protected from reckless endangerment, not unlike a passenger in a car with a drunk driver. The other main pro-choice justification is the premise that the unborn child is not alive, so you're not killing it. A lot of people take the stance that life begins at birth, not at conception. Again, if it can be proven that the child is not alive while in the mother's womb, then I can understand that perspective as well. But the truth is that both of these premises are completely false. Even the name pro-choice is misleading. It suggests that someone wants to take the freedom of choice away from them regarding what to do with their own body. But I assure you that no one is trying to take your reproductive rights away. The fact is that the vast majority of pregnancies are a result of people making a choice of what to do with their reproductive organs. We'll dive deeper into that a little later in the show as well. But for now, let's pull the rug out from under these two false premises which the entire pro-choice posture seems to be built upon. You know what? I'm not going to support the misleading name pro-choice, so let's call it what it is, pro-abortion. Now, to topple these two foundational positions, it is not a living human being, and it's just part of her body. I'd like to go over a few seemingly obvious facts, which I never hear anyone speak about in the media. Fact 1. There are 8 different main blood types. Then there are 34 other recognized blood types called blood group systems, and nothing guarantees that a baby will have the same type as the mother. So, babies are likely to have a different blood type than the mother. A simple blood test can confirm. If the test shows the unborn child to have a different blood type than the mother, wouldn't it mean that it isn't the mother? I mean, if it's just a part of her body, how could it have a different blood type? Granted, the blood type isn't always different, but that leads me to fact number 2. The same blood sample you just took to find the blood type will also show that the baby always has a different DNA than the mother, 100% of the time. This, in and of itself, is irrefutable proof that the unborn child is not the mother. As if you didn't know, DNA is 100% proof of identity, and has been used in the court system for that exact purpose since the 1980s. According to the National Institute of Justice, almost 500,000 convictions have been made based on DNA evidence. And more than 350 people have been exonerated with the use of DNA evidence because DNA also proves if it is not a specific person. If the unborn child has a different DNA than the mother, then it absolutely has its own body and is not just part of the mother. This is not my opinion. This is a scientific fact and is 100% provable in a court of law. If DNA evidence is no longer admissible in court, then we need to overturn quite a few convictions, don't we? You know how many times women have had men court-ordered to take a DNA test alongside the child to confirm whether he is or is not the father? Well, I am astounded that a young man somewhere, perhaps an ex-boyfriend who doesn't want his unborn child to be murdered, hasn't tried to flip the script and had the mother court-ordered to take the DNA test alongside the child, not to see if she is or is not the mother, of course, but to see if the unborn child is or is not the mother. Then there would be court precedent in place showing the scientific fact that an unborn child is not the mother's body, but has its own body. Let's use a little common sense here, guys. Being inside the mother's body isn't the same thing as being a part of her body. A body part is defined by the common genetic code it shares with the rest of the body. But an unborn child's genetic code differs from the mother's. There have been cases where the mother has died and the unborn child has lived, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are two separate individuals. Here's another fact. The same blood sample we took shows that whatever it may be, it is alive. They can see through a microscope that it is not dead, nor is it an inanimate object. The cells of all living organisms have certain things in common, like response to the environment, reproduction, growth and development, energy processing, and much more. Indeed, science can use many different methods, repeatable tests on this blood sample to prove that the cells found in a child, which is still in its mother's womb, are indeed alive. At only 1 week after conception, a human embryo has several hundred living cells, and it's growing fast. After a month, it has billions of living cells. And before the baby is born, it will have around 26 trillion living cells. The DNA found in that blood sample also confirms that those living cells are human. It's not a salamander or a ferret. And what do you call an organism with living human cells? Ding, 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 ding. You guessed it, a living human. According to science, it's a living human, guys. Whatever happened to follow the science? I thought you liked science. Is that only when it aligns with your agenda? Personally, I prefer to follow the science when it saves the lives of innocent children. You know, if we found a single living cell on Mars, everyone on Earth would confirm that we have found alien life. But only by ignoring the science could we have such a hard time figuring out if an organism with living human cells should be called life. Yeah, we actually have rovers on Mars right now looking for signs of past microbial life, and if they find it, they won't have a problem calling it life, even though microbes don't have a heartbeat. One day, a young lady was in our home who happened to be pregnant, so we were discussing this issue. And I was shocked when she told me that she could understand how someone might say that an unborn child isn't alive if the heart hasn't started beating yet. I said, okay. I looked out the window and I said, oh man, it looks like my tree outside is dead. I seemed very concerned about it, so she looked out too. And when she realized which tree I was talking about, she looked a little puzzled and said, No, it's still alive. I said, are you sure? It doesn't have a heartbeat. She said, yeah, but you can see the growth on it. If it's growing, it must still be alive. I said, I rest my case. That's right. Inanimate objects and dead things don't grow. And the baby in your womb was growing even before the heart started beating. Listen, guys, as any biologist will tell you, having a heartbeat is not one of the requirements for life. Just look at the trees in your yard or the grass. What about those microbes or bacteria or several different sea creatures like jellyfish, starfish, and corals, or polyps, sponges, and sea cucumbers? We have all sorts of living things which don't have a heartbeat. The blood sample we've been talking about easily proves that an unborn child is alive even before the heart starts beating. And having no heartbeat does not vindicate killing your child. Even if you're not educated to the facts and there's some uncertainty in your mind about when human life begins, shouldn't the benefit of the doubt go toward preserving innocent life? But again, medical textbooks and scientific reference works consistently agree that human life begins at conception. In fact, some of the world's most prominent scientists and physicians have testified to this fact to a U.S. Senate committee. Mac, you should know by now that an embryo or a fetus is just a blob of tissue, not a baby. Abortion is just terminating an unwanted pregnancy, not killing a child. Wrong. Fetus and embryo are just terms used to refer to different stages of development, like toddler or adolescent. Using this terminology like a crutch to hold up your crippled delusions don't change reality, suddenly making your child non-human. And no matter how much you try to beautify it, terminating a pregnancy is killing a living, innocent child. No matter what you say, the truth doesn't change. Don't get it twisted. No one is telling the mother what she can or cannot do with her own body. In almost all cases, she has decided what to do with her body. Now we need to protect the child's body, which is temporarily inside the mother who, again, in all likelihood, decided to do what it took to put the child there. Mac, don't you dare dismiss rape as if it doesn't happen. Yes, it does happen. And if it has happened to you, I am so sorry. You were a victim of a heinous and evil crime, and you deserve our empathy, our sympathy, and even our assistance in moving forward. But how often does this happen? The statistics bear out the extreme rarity. So what are the numbers? Well, let's go through it. According to usafacts.org, there were 852,385 abortions in the U.S. in 2006. Now, there were about 250,000 fewer in 2017, so let's use those numbers to save face. It's still a big number, 612,719. In the same year, there were 3,853,472 births, which means that there were a total of 4,466,191 reported pregnancies altogether. And the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that at least 3,200 rape-related pregnancies occur each year. I saw another statistic stating 3,204 is the average. Here's the collation. I did the math, and it says that out of every 10,000 pregnancies, 7 are caused by rape, which obviously means that the other 9,993 are a result of making a free choice. Hey guys, there's only one thing that causes pregnancy. And although some would have you think that their reproductive rights have been taken away by Roe versus Wade being overturned, it turns out that 99.93% have indeed chosen what to do with their reproductive organs. So all evidence points to their reproductive rights being completely intact. So Mac, are you saying that it's okay to get an abortion in the case of a rape-related pregnancy? Someone violated me and I shouldn't have to bear the emotional turmoil of carrying that monster's child in me for 9 months, and I certainly don't want to raise his child. Well, let me ask you this. Killing an innocent child so that you don't have to feel emotionally uncomfortable for 9 months. Does that sound right to you? It doesn't sound right because it's not right. You've got to keep in mind that this child didn't rape you. He or she is completely innocent and doesn't deserve death by your hand. Don't forget that this child is not just his. It's your child, too. If you think you'll have emotional turmoil by carrying his child for 9 months, think about the anxiety and strife you'll have when you realize you've killed an innocent child, killed your own child to avoid a short season of discomfort. Mac, that sounds so harsh. It sounds like you don't care that I was violated. You're not even considering the nightmare the next 9 months are going to be for me. I do care. I care very much. In fact, even if you needed psychological assistance for years after the child is born, I'd rather my tax dollars go toward helping you overcome this horrendous circumstance than them being used to murder your child. In rape-related pregnancy cases, I'm personally an advocate of government subsidies not only for your psychological welfare, but for the welfare of the child. I'd rather help you through the adoption process, if that's the route you'd like to take, or even help the child navigate the difficulties of the foster care system than rob the child of 80 years of this gift of life. Rob him or her of all those life experiences and opportunities and the pursuit of happiness. Please understand that what happened to you, as unimaginably horrible as it was, doesn't change the fact that your child did nothing wrong and has the right to life. What if you were out there preaching the idea to someone that children conceived by rape should be killed, and you find out that the person you're talking to was in fact conceived by rape? Do you think they would agree? Or do you think that they're glad their mother didn't agree? Let me ask you this. Does the violence of killing a child by literally ripping it apart in order to remove it from your womb compare to the violence of rape? Even if you take the stance that rape is incomparably worse, abortion never brings healing to a rape victim. And that child is still a child, indeed your child, regardless of how it was conceived. The extremely adverse circumstance that one human experiences doesn't diminish the value of the life of another human. Help me protect your child from the murderous intentions of some in our society, which are masked with the label of healthcare and bait you in with the colorful banners of feel-good-now promises. The pursuit of immediate self-gratification is a pathway to destruction. I've seen it take many people down over the years. Moving forward, let's talk just for a moment about this idea that it's okay to kill an unborn child if it's not yet viable outside of the womb, which simply put means that it can't survive without outside resources temporarily helping it to eat or breathe properly, for instance. If you follow this ridiculous principle through with people of any age and size, you'll see right away that it vindicates killing all sorts of people. Your husband woke up from a coma? That's amazing. You mean they didn't kill him because he wasn't viable outside of the womb while in the coma? Your grandpa uses a breathing machine? The principle of this viability idea says to kill him. Oh, your 22-year-old niece had pneumonia and was put on a ventilator? Aren't you glad she wasn't killed simply because she wasn't viable at the time? Well, Mac, other people have to take care of this child. It can't survive on its own. Well, who can? Aren't all of us in need of outside resources and other people to survive at times? If you dropped your 8-year-old daughter off in the middle of a 10,000-acre forest and said, "Find your way home," would she make it? If not, does that mean that she's not viable outside of the womb? Should she be killed because of it? Of course not. If you follow this nonsensical principle through, it even suggests that it's okay to kill someone who has to get government assistance to survive. Oh, you get a monthly check and food stamps from the government? Off with your head. It sounds preposterous because it is preposterous. Again, the only reason I've had to spend a moment showing you the absolute absurdity of this idea is because this meaningless gibberish keeps being espoused by the radical left in our society. You know, a mother's womb used to be the safest place in the world for a baby. But since Roe versus Wade was overturned, we've literally got people standing on the street corners screaming out for the blood of innocent children. How dare you make me travel to a different state so that I can legally murder my child? Little horns are growing out of their heads as they blather on with their evil, self-absorbed rhetoric. I'm sure that you too can see how our society's culture has become increasingly deviant. I can't help but to notice the irony in some of our laws too. Take prostitution, for instance. It's illegal to have sex for money, as it should be. But if you have sex for money on camera, it's not only perfectly legal, it's one of the largest, if not the largest business on the planet. Pornography. Did you know that it's against the law to kill an unborn bald eagle? If you drop or even disturb a bald eagle's egg, it is punishable by a $5,000 fine and up to a year in prison. You can't kill an unborn bald eagle, but you can kill an unborn human, no problem. How's this one for irony? Even though it's legal for a mother to kill her unborn child, if you kill a pregnant woman, you get charged with double homicide. The list of twisted aspects of our society goes on and on. But are all of these pro-abortion activists evil with murderous intent? I think not. I'd like to believe that the majority of those who have had an abortion were simply deceived. A veil was pulled over their eyes so that they believed the lie that an unborn child is not alive and that it's just part of her body. If this is you, please don't spend the next 5 years beating yourself up and calling yourself a murderer. Join the fight. This is an opportunity to speak from experience and help lift the veil from the eyes of others in your world and help save a life. So, Mac, here's my question. Are there ever any circumstances where you would be okay with abortion? Well, let me start by letting you know that I am a proponent of the Second Amendment, and I carry a weapon on my person whenever and wherever I can. That is to say, whenever and wherever it is legal to do so. If your establishment doesn't allow me to carry, there is a strong possibility that you will not receive my patronage. Regrettably, we've had a rash of mass shootings as of late, and I know that the best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. If someone starts shooting up the place, a lot of us would do our best to save lives by putting them down in a timely manner. Every second counts and could save lives. I keep weapons in my home for the same reason, to protect everyone who lives there. I bring this up to help you understand my answer to this question. If a bad guy was shooting up your restaurant and I took him down, I didn't commit murder. I just saved the lives of 48 people. If someone invades your house knowing that you and your family are home, killing you all is very likely on their agenda. If you kill him, you aren't committing murder. You're saving the lives of the 5 people who live in your home. What in the world does this have to do with abortion? Well, if an unfortunate complication arises causing the life of the mother to be endangered, and the only way to save her life would be to abort the child, then I would side with saving the mother's life. Mac, after everything you've said, are you now suggesting that the mother's life is more valuable than the child's life? No, not at all. All human life is valuable, but the lives of many do outweigh the life of one. If the child is aborted, then the parents, grandparents, perhaps a handful of close friends and family will be negatively affected for a while. The mother who survives will be impacted more than anyone else, but even she didn't have a long-standing relationship with the child, so there is hope that she'll be successful in moving on after a season. But if the mother dies, many more lives will be affected. She has had 20 or 30 years of connecting with people in her world, her immediate and extended family, friends accumulated over the course of decades, co-workers, fellow church members, indeed an entire community could be devastated by her death. The dark cloud of her loss could linger over that community for an extended period of time, and the repercussions could even ripple out, influencing relationships and whatnot outside the boundaries of her community. So just as killing the shooter in your establishment wouldn't be murder but would in fact be saving the lives of your patrons, aborting the child in this scenario would not be murder. It would be saving the life of the mother. Listen, we're running out of time, and this is an extensively complicated subject, so I can't discuss the navigation of all of the extenuating circumstances surrounding this topic in one episode, but I would like to revisit one. I said I wasn't going to hold anything back today, and I certainly haven't held back my passion for preserving innocent life, but I also can't hold back my empathy. If you are one of the women who are having to deal with the horrifying reality of being pregnant because of rape, I'd just like to repeat that I am so sorry that you are having to go through this. I can't imagine the immense emotional anguish you must be going through. But if you're still listening, then perhaps you haven't yet made up your mind regarding whether to get an abortion or not. So to that end, I will say this. If science can easily prove that there is another living human being who is not you, a person, an innocent child, your child, living within your womb, would you consider carrying to term? Please remember that your child is not the person who violated you and does not deserve death. I realize that the child shares some genetics with the evil perpetrator who defiled you, and I'm not going to pretend to understand what that must feel like. I would simply remind you that the child also shares its genetics with you. That's your child, not his, and we're all in agreement with you that that child will never be his. I can't imagine how much of a nightmare the next 9 months might be for you. But at the risk of this sounding like a stark warning, I offer a heartfelt plea to keep in mind that you're going to have to find a way to cope with either carrying your child to term or with the knowledge that you killed your own child to avoid feeling the emotional turmoil that carrying it to term may bring. Either way, I believe in you. You are an example of the strongest of us all. And if any of us can bear the unbearable, it's you. There are resources available to help you through this. And again, I, for one, would much rather my tax dollars go toward helping you through this than going toward taking your child's life. I know that there are all kinds of circumstances to navigate in life, very difficult personal decisions to be made, and no one should judge in self-righteousness. But if we don't value human life, our society will fall. As discussed, it seems to already be heading in that direction. Listen, guys, being pro-life isn't a political perspective. And despite the rhetoric being spewed by some, it isn't against the freedom of choice either. It's simply valuing human life. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and share. Have a great day. God bless you all. We'll talk again soon. Asking why. Thank you for listening to today's show. If you like what you heard today, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you get your podcasts. Drop a comment to let me know that you're listening, and feel free to share. If you'd like to support the continued production of Frontal Lobe, please make donations through Spotify or on Patreon. Reviews and ratings are greatly appreciated. I'm truly honored and humbled to see feedback letting me know that this show is having a positive impact on my listeners. Stay in touch and subscribe now to stay up to date with my latest episode at frontallobepodcast.com. Until next time, remember that armed with an open mind and some divine wisdom, we can face the daily grind together with confidence and dare to reimagine life.